I felt like Ashes of Ariandel was going to be a golden opportunity to tie up the loose ends of the Dark Souls series into a nice little bow. You know, by explaining away Allfather Lloyd and Velka or what have you. So after playing and realizing it did no more than pose even more questions than it did answers in such a short amount of time, no less, I was let down. Perhaps it's better myths remain myths after all. The first expansion does redeem itself by adding even more well thought out mythology to deconstruct and even delves a lot more into the usurpation of Fire questline. I'll point out the sneaky parallels, the spiritual connections, the blatant fan service, and other new additions to the lore, including the admittedly genius self-contained theme to Ashes of Ariandel. Okay, so it's very clear that the first expansion's overarching theme will lead into the second expansion, which has a placeholder title of City of the Dead. There's plenty of hints to Lundor and the Abyss being our next destination. The game ends with Gale, the prostrating slave knight, heading off to obtain the dark soul of man.
Soon, Uncle Gale will bring me the pigment. I wonder if he has found it. The dark soul of man.
When I first heard that, my heart skipped a beat. This is a big deal! What if Dark Souls 3's last expansion closes with you obtaining the Dark Soul? How cool would that be? Sure, it might break some theories, but it's not too far-fetched. There are a few hints to all this, but before I really get into it, I'd like to go into the stuff that doesn't have a whole lot to do with the self-contained or overarching themes of Ashes of Ariandel. You know, the stuff you can't really fit into an analysis in any coherent way. So we'll get into that first. A small tidbit of information I'd like to briefly bring up before we get into this is that Ariandel sounds a lot like Ariandel. You know, the location in the Disney movie Frozen, which was loosely based on the fairy tale The Snow Queen. The similarities in the names could be coincidental, but considering the locations both being in the frigid cold and the setting within a fantasy world, it could very well be a nod, an homage, as that movie was, and still is, globally successful.
Oh, look at that. I've been impaled.
Silly speculation aside, I think we were all a little bit more than surprised when Ashes of Ariandel started giving us more on Sulyvah's past. Just in case you don't remember who Sulyvahn is, as it has been a while, he is the rather powerful cleric that seized control over Irithyll, previously known as Anor Londo. Some of you may know him as that boss that dupes himself is a giant ass. He is associated with dark magic and flame, though this isn't any ordinary flame. This kind of flame, called the Profane Flame, only incinerates human flesh. It is of a dark nature. It is born from these relatives of a certain oracle. And just who is that oracle? Well, at some point, Sulyvahn sprouts what appears to be wings at first, but really, it seems to be an affliction derived from the Profane Flame. No, really, hear me out. I know it sounds crazy at first, but listen. If you look closely enough, you'll notice that they are not wings, but instead roots and branches of a tree. Yes, other people have made that observation before, but if you can recall, the Flame of Chaos was a terrible accident created by the Witch of Izalith. Also, the oracle the item description for Eleonora could very well be referring to. When she couldn't control the flame, it mutated her into the Bed of Chaos, a tree bed that uncontrollably spreads devastating flame and demons across the land. The theme of anyone afflicted by this curse are multiple appendages, to mirror the roots of the Bed of Chaos, as in the case with the tentacular Ceaseless Discharge, and the witch's two half-spider daughters. You know, with the legs. This is why, time and time again, you may see tree roots or branches coming off the Irithyll Deacons and Sulyvahn's Outrider Knight Vort. I believe this is to show their spiritual connection to the Flame of Chaos. Something very important of note is a very specific and seemingly purposeful double pun in the item description for the Profaned Greatsword that says, when Sulyvahn was a young sorcerer, he discovered the Profaned Flame, and a burning ambition took root within him. An interesting parallel is that anyone touched by the Chaos Flame in the first game all transformed into demons, which is similar to what happens to Sulyvahn's Outrider Knights as seen with the Dancer, Vort, and a few others, though this does seem to be a more gradual change. This is detailed in the Irithyll weapon item descriptions that say every Outrider Knight one day devolves into a beast. Yes, it does say they are hounded by Sulyvahn's black eyes. Either way, they devolve into one of Sulyvahn's beasts. This guy right here. Harnessing the Profaned Flame seems to have a stigma effect similar to the Chaos Flame. They are likely not the same kind of fire, but are somehow spiritually related with the roots and transformations. Frozen Weapon explains to us that Sulyvahn used to have his right weapon imbued with frost before leaving the Painted World. Now that weapon is buffed with Profaned Flame. Yeah, that makes sense. Snap Freeze also explains he used to be able to use that spell, and also that he was born inside of the Painted World. He had little use for the frigid homeland, since he had not yet experienced loss. This is interesting to me. As I have come to understand it, the Painted World of Ariandel is home to forlorn souls, people who have no place to call home, people who have lost their homes. Not only that, but a lot of Corvians live there. These crow-human hybrids. About the only connection that I can find between Sulyvahn and the Painted World is with the Corvians, and that is the random sprouting of wings. But the Corvians that sprout wings don't appear in the painting. There is no indication who his parents are, but there is a crazy witch tree you get Sulyvahn spell off of that did have some cut dialogue where she was expressing remorse over the loss of a child.
Where have you gone, sweet child? It's cold outside, so awfully cold. You're cold and you've no place to go.
This could be anything. Whatever you want it to be, sure. I'm not going to argue if you think his mom is a tree or was something else and turned into a tree. This could go back to the Bed of Chaos yet again as another parallel. The Witch of Izalith was a mom that turned into a tree. Either way, Sulyvahn couldn't stay in the Painted World and had to move on, especially if he was going to obtain the power he so craved. He found an opportunity to climb ranks in Aldrich's Faithful, a religion worshipping Aldrich. In discovering Anor Lundo, he also came across the Profaned Flame deep below the city, an element that gave him the dark, devastating ambition he needed to proclaim himself pontiff in order to allow Aldrich to usurp the sick and frail gods for his vision of a new age. At some point, this city became Irithyll, a secret city blocked by a magical barrier, only granting access to those bearing a doll. This is a parallel to the Painted World of Ariamis and how you need Priscilla's doll to enter. But how did Sulyvahn come up with that idea? Was it a passed down secret? I always like to think that Priscilla's strong emotions of loneliness gave her doll a mystic energy, allowing access to the painting. So what's the explanation for Irithyll's magic barrier? It says the small doll is handed to valued subjects, and they can hear it say, "Wherever you may be, Irithyll is your home." It's as if it's a reminder to the holder that they still have a home. And as we know, the painting harbors those who lose their homes.
For this is a true haven of the forlorn, the cold and gentle painted world of Ariandel.
The small doll definitely has a spiritual connection to Priscilla's strange doll in the way they are used. Speaking of Priscilla, there is a platform that closely resembles the one you fight or not fight her on in the first game. If you are embered, you get invaded by livid pyromancer Dunnel, who took the spell Floating Chaos from the demon clerics in Smoldering Lake, cause he liked it. This specific spell discusses how chaos was the primordial life born from the Bed of Chaos, also a symbol of Izalith's sin. You also obtain the Pyromancer's Parting Flame, which is an interesting new addition as it can be used to refill an Estus flask after so many kills. When Dunnel lost his hideous spouse, he gave his own Pyromancy Flame as an offering, which transformed into a Parting Flame. Not long after, Dunnel became a mad spirit, cursed to wander the lands. Perhaps the distorted yellow spectral faces you see are the apparitions of his supposed hideous wife. That's all the information we get on this mad spirit, the only dark spirit in Ariandel. His story is kind of weak, but the real point is, why would they put this familiar platform here? This is a new painting. There's no explanation for it, and no theory that I muster makes sense, so my guess is that it's fan service. Well, while we're at it, let's point out all the other fan service, similarities, and parallels between the two paintings. A long dilapidated rope bridge. A long dilapidated rope bridge. A spiral staircase tower. A spiral staircase tower. Thou must returneth whence thou came. Return from whence thou camest. A water well. A water well. But it's a trap. A crow-human crossbreed. Another crow-human crossbreed. Statue of a mother holding a child. Statue of a headless mother holding a child. A crank. A crank! Spinning it results in a statue turning around. Spinning it results in a statue turning around. Tight spot ahead. Tight spot below. A large lady with dragon features. A small lady with dragon features. Well, wait, didn't they already do that with Priscilla? I'm sure there are more, but you get the gist of it. Did I mention the platform with the plank? Oh, I sure hope I did. Down below, you fight the champion's Gravetender and his 3 wolves. That is, until the champion's Great Wolf shows up. This very Great Wolf is first seen howling in the distance with an uncanny resemblance to the Great Wolf Sif. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. It bears many battle wounds and is more feral in the way it attacks. It's pretty obvious that this Great Wolf is not Sif. So why, other than for the sake of familiarity, is there a Great Wolf here? More fan service? Yes, I think so. Defeating the boss rewards you the Valor Heart, the weapon the Gravetender was using, and its description says it was once wielded by the champion of the Undead Match. The champion fought on without rest until he lost his mind. In the end, only his page and a lone wolf stayed at his side. At first, I was thinking this champion could be Artorias, as it mentions him losing his mind and he had a wolf at his side, but then the symbol of the lion and the item descriptions all just don't add up. Such as the mention of his page. What? Artorias doesn't have a page. Oh wait. This isn't Artorias. So the champion of the Undead Match had a page, a student. It's safe to say the champion's Gravetender is that very page, and this giant great wolf is the lone wolf. It's also safe to say that the dead champion is spiritually related to Artorias, while the great wolf is spiritually related to Sif. Hold on, wait a second, didn't they already do this with the Abyss Watchers and the Wolf of Farron? They wanted a story explanation for the arena, and I get that, wanting to use Artorias for that. I mean, he was the arena master, but what they did, they opted to go a weak, confusing, and already done fan service route with it. Now, why do the same fan service twice in the same game? You will run into some interesting enemies called Farron Followers and some brutal Viking-like warriors called Millwood Knights. Remember the Abyss Watchers? Oh yeah, we just talked about it. It was highly speculated they fell into the abyss as evident in the black veins trailing up their armor and their mindless battle with each other. This is yet another spiritual connection to Artorias for more reasons than one. Well, the expansion does confirm they have indeed fallen to the abyss, with the item description from the Followers' armor stating, "When a warrior of Farron fell to the abyss, the tall, lean followers with their hollowed eyes quietly appeared in groups to hunt them down. Farron and its watchers fell to ruin, but the followers survived as a wandering pack of hollows." That makes it clear to me that after the abyss corrupted the last of the watchers, still connected by wolf's blood, they were doomed to resurrect and fight endlessly. The followers' weapon descriptions tell me their technique is honed to face men, warriors taken by the abyss that have yet to lose their human aspect. Their shields are imbued with a faint resistance to the abyss, and these followers wandered away from their home in Farron as everything fell to ruin. They likely found the painted world as they had nowhere else to go, and because they are hollows. Mindless hollows are known to wander. I mean, just look at Horus! Horus? What are you doing down there? As for the Millwood Knights, they are primitive earth worshippers and can be seen manipulating the earth with a few of their weapons. Their chieftain knights are also high priests, and the ethereal oak tree is a symbol of their religion. Their sworn enemy is called the Abyss Dragon. That, to me, sounds like a primordial serpent, akin to Koth or Frampt, but it could very well just be a dragon tainted by the abyss. Still, they would not mention something as specific as an Abyss Dragon if we aren't going to see it at some point in the second expansion. You also got this seemingly out of place and strange snake person doll at the end of the final boss room. Then you got the art depicting two shadowy figures holding snakes. There's no doubt in my mind these are symbolic hints of something to come. We also cannot forget that there are primordial serpent statues littered throughout Lothric. Even Yuria makes mention of failing Koth.
Koth, I have failed thee.
Okay, come on now. Mentions of an Abyss Dragon, statue depicting wings and a primordial serpent, Lundor's obvious allegiance to Koth, a doll with a human face and a snake tail, paintings depicting abysmal creatures holding snakes, City of the Dead. Come on, you can't tell me this doesn't all add up to something obvious. As for where the Millwood Knights are from and how they ended up in the painting, their armor description answers just that. When the fabled Millwood Forest was discovered, it was a vacant ruin. The only thing left was the ethereal oak, stood rotting. No corpses were discovered, yet their belongings lay neatly on the ground. Then the description in the captain's ashes goes on to explain what happened to the Millwood Knights. Long ago, when the Millwood Knights lost the forest they called home, they began a journey so long that even thoughts of their sworn enemy washed away, replaced by a vision of a cold and brittle wood. That enemy, of course, being the Abyss Dragon. If I had to guess, Millwood Forest was very close or even on the outskirts of this rumored City of the Dead, and that very city is likely Lundor, with access to the Abyss. Either way, they wandered until they came across Ariandel. I do want to talk a little bit about Sister Elfriede, or simply Friede. Through the course of the main game's Usurpation of Fire quest, we were given two names for the three founding sisters of the Sable Church of Lundor, Yuria and Lillian. The Onyx Blade blatantly states that Elfriede was the eldest of the sisters, years and was the leader of the Sable Church. But her attire goes into more detail. After renouncing everything, Friede discovered a people that she wished to protect and assumed the precise form that they yearned for. And her great scythe says that in the painting, it is a symbol of a long-lost home. That possibly explains Friede's preference for it. The way I see it, she renounced her vows to the Sable Church in Lundor, leaving power to her two younger sisters. Friede came across this painted world and gave the forlorn the leadership and protection they needed. She started wielding a scythe, which seemingly became tradition, likely passed down from Priscilla. And seeing so many elements like this passed down, it brings the original painted world's purpose into question. While I always assumed the painted world of Ariamis was a home to outcasts, heretics, and abominations, it's possible that's not true, and that the real intention of the painting was to give residence to those who lost their homes. But that's not too different from those who don't fit in anywhere else. I mean, look at me. I think I need a painting to live in. You know, when you really get down to thinking about it, painted worlds are really like giant and unpleasant orphanages filled with murderous fiends. I think it wants to be adopted. Check out these crow-human hybrids. I don't think they are the same as the ones from the Ariamis painting, but they are definitely old, dying, rotting, and withering away. I assume they are called Corvians too, taking residence with these other Corvians who appear more human, yet hollowed. Then there are the Corvian Knights who terrorize the streets to execute their own to protect the painting from fire. The Rose of Ariandel explains that the painted world was painted with blood, and only blood could protect its secret. Due to that, the coagulated and rotting blood reflects onto the world. This Corvian settler explains it well.
When the world rots, we set it afire for the sake of the next world.
The residents are rotting away. The world is rotting away. And when the world within the painting starts to rot, it's tradition to cleanse the rot with fire. Only, fire is being thwarted because Friede doesn't wish to purify and end the world Ariandel created. Those loyal to her, such as the Corvian Knights, go about killing anyone opposed. Sir Wilhelm, possibly, caged away the painter girl who seeks flame in order to create the next world.
Behold its size. This is my canvas.
Ariandel himself is also under her thumb, with the belief that if he flails himself to produce more and more blood, the flame will subside.
Not enough blood yet, Shade. My flail. Bring me my flail.
Essentially, Friede is working to postpone the inevitable. You can see the rows of Corvians at her temple, begging her for mercy, begging for flame. Can't you see they are suffering? This stowing away flame is quite unusual when you consider the fact that Friede is an ashen one, just like you. Gale put it best.
What ash does not seek fire?
Unkindled yearn for warmth. The Ember says that.
When the world rots, we set it afire for the sake of the next world. It's the one thing we do right, unlike those fools on the outside.
Many have died to continue linking the first flame in the real world, in the real universe of Dark Souls. Over and over and over and over again, they link that fire. The final boss is an accumulation of every being that has perpetuated this act of keeping that first flame alive. It's postponing the inevitable, and the flame is very weak, even with your sacrifice at the end. That Corvian settler is saying outright that we are fools for doing that. Perhaps, and he's saying perhaps it's time for a new age. I know it's not the deepest parallel, but it's important and a predominant theme. As you can see, the crisis in the painted world of Ariandel, the main theme, perfectly mirrors the crisis in the Dark Souls 3 universe. The Corvians believe in setting their world on fire when it starts to rot, and it is most certainly rotting. Look at all that rot. And they believe that this is the right way, the only way, to allow for a better world to rise. It's not even possible to set the Dark Souls world on fire and burn it like it's a painting, but it is possible to put an end to an era. And I think that parallel is alluding to just that. Even Yuria makes a good point, though I don't think her intentions are sound.
The Age of Fire was founded by the old gods, sustained by the linking of the fire. But the gods are no more.
So, perhaps it's time the first flame is snuffed out for good. The world of Dark Souls is filled with corruption and rot, so maybe it is best to allow a new era to flourish from the darkness. What is right and what is wrong? This also goes back to the ideology that Koth was right all along. I have argued there is no right or wrong answer between them, but this theme does make you question it all over again in a very fresh and clever way. Thanks for watching, everyone. A big, heartfelt thanks to everyone who supports me on Patreon. A special thanks to my new patron, GSXP! And a very special shout out to the following patrons: the legendary Chris, Sandre Friesvold, and GSXP. The heroic Tyler Hunter and Samuel Michael. The elite Felipe Russo, Andreas Sanaske Birnbaumer, Dracukant, Alex Loop, Jonathan Ryan, Swifty, and Sigma Undine Goodnight. Hey, be sure to check out other videos of mine on Dark Souls 3 or what have you. Subscribe or even become a patron to support this hard work. Resident Evil 7 is on the horizon, so you can bet I'll be making a review on that